Assalamu alaikum everyone. How are you doing? Hope so you are all doing well. I welcome you all on my YouTube channel Learn English with Shehzaib Yasin, our linguist. This is our lecture number 4 and today we are going to talk about verb and types. Today we are going to discuss different topics which are verb, types of verbs, action verbs, transitive and intransitive verbs, regular and irregular verbs, auxiliary verbs, modal verbs, and forms of verbs. Verbs. A word which shows an action. A word used to describe an action, state of noun or subject, occurrence of nouns or subject, forms the main part of the predicate of a sentence. So, a verb is a word which shows an action. Verb can also show the state of nouns or subjects. Verbs also show occurrence of nouns or subjects. Verbs are the main parts of a sentence which completes the communication. Here are some examples like hear, become, happen. After verb, we have its types, which are action verbs, transitive and intransitive verbs, regular and irregular verbs, auxiliary verbs, modal verbs, and forms of verbs. Then we have action verbs. Action verbs are verbs that express physical or mental actions, occurrence, or activity. So, action verbs are those verbs which show some action, which can be physical or mental. They are also known as dynamic verbs or main verbs. So these are those verbs which are called as main verbs of a sentence. Action verbs typically answer the questions. Those questions are what is happening, what is being done, what action is taking place, and some examples of action verbs include run, jump, read, write. Then we have transitive verbs. Transitive verbs are verbs that take an object directly. They are verbs that require a direct object to complete their meaning. For example, if you look at the word transitive, it comes from the word transition. Transition means transfer of action from subject to object. So, those verbs which need a direct object to transfer their action from subject to object, they are called as transitive verbs. They require a direct object to complete their meaning. In other words, they need a noun or pronoun to receive the action of the verb. Some examples of transitive verbs include first one example is throw, which requires an object like throw the ball. Then we have write, which requires an object write a letter. Then we have paint, requires an object paint a picture. Then we have buy, requires an object buy a book or something else. Then we have eat, requires an object just like eat an apple. Then we have intransitive verbs. An intransitive verb is a verb that does not take a direct object. It is a verb that completes its meaning without the need of a direct object. In other words, it does not require a noun or pronoun to receive the action of the verb. It means that those verbs which don't need the objects, nouns or pronouns to complete their meaning or complete their action. Those verbs are called as intransitive verbs. So, in intransitive verbs, the action is not transferred from subject to the objects. And here are some examples like sleep, laugh, cry, smile, die, arrive, depart, come, and go. Then we have regular verbs. Regular verbs are verbs that form their past tense and past participle by adding ed to the base form of the verb. So, if we add ed to the base form of the verb, then regular verbs will be formed and they are called as regular verbs. Here are some examples. Base form is walk and the past tense is walked. Then we have past participle as walked too. In general, regular verbs follow this simple pattern. Base form plus ed is equal to past tense and past participle. Then we have irregular verbs. Those verbs which have different second, past, and third past participle form are called as irregular verbs. It means that those verbs which have different second and third form of verb are called as irregular verbs. It means their second and third forms are not same. Here are some examples like speak, spoke, spoken, take, took, taken, go, went, gone. Then we have auxiliary verbs. Those verbs which help the main verbs of the sentence are called auxiliary verbs. It means that auxiliary verbs provide assistance to the main verbs. Here are some examples is, am, are, was, were, etc. Types of auxiliary verbs. There are two types of auxiliary verbs. First one is primary auxiliary and second one is secondary auxiliary. Here is a chart which shows primary and secondary auxiliaries. First one is principal auxiliaries are primary auxiliaries. To be, am, is, are, was, were, being, and been. Then we have to do, does, did. Then we have to have, has, have, had, or having. Primary auxiliaries are used to form tense. Then we have modal auxiliaries or secondary auxiliaries. Will, would, can, could, shall, should, may, might, must. These are used to create a sense, to create an ability, to create a different meaning for main verb of the sentence. Then we have modal verbs. Modal verbs are used to modify the main verbs in a sentence to express various degrees of possibility, necessity, obligation, permission, ability, or inclination. They are often used to express attitudes, opinions, or judgments about an action or situation. Here are some examples can, could, will, would, may, might, etc. So, modal verbs are those which are used to modify the main verb. They show some possibility, necessity, obligation, permission, and same things like these. Then we have forms of verb. There are six forms or states of verbs in which they are used. They can be called as inflections of verbs. First one is first form, which is called as present form. Then we have second form, which is called as past form. Then we have third form, which is called as past participle. Then we have S form. Then we have present participle. And at last, then we have infinitive. Forms of verb. First form, which is called as present form. The basic form of verb is called first form of verb, which is used to show actions which occur in present time. Here are some examples: go, play, shake, etc. Then we have at second number, second form, which is called as past form. The past form of the verb, which is also called as second form, it is used to show actions which occurred in past time. Here are some examples: went, played, shook, etc. Then we have third form, which is called as past participle. The third form of a verb, also known as the past participle, is the form of the verb that is used in combination with auxiliary verbs such as have, has, had, be, been to form perfect and passive constructions. For example, gone, played, shaken, etc. Then we have S form. That form of verb which is used with third person singular with addition of s or es in basic form is called as S form. Examples: goes, plays, shakes, etc. Then we have present participle, first form of verb plus ing. Verbs basic form with addition of ing is called as present participle, which is used in all continuous tenses. For example, going, playing, shaking, etc. Then we have infinitives. Those verbs which are used with to are called as infinitives. Example: I want to learn English language. In this example, to learn is an infinitive. Then we have bare infinitive. Verbs without to but which are used after the use of do, does, did, or other modal verbs are called as bare imperatives. Thank you so much for paying attention. And if you guys have any question, you can ask in comment box. And Allah Hafiz till upcoming video.